Hey, it's the Graveyard Girls.
Right, Natasha?
Nope. I'm a bit nervous. It's our first episode.
I think we'll be fine once we've sort of got into it. I think it's just those nerves of
Yes.
initially
And hearing ourselves
reading.
back and we don't sound like ourselves. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I am slightly worried as well that, like, as I read this, because I've made quite a lot of notes, that I'm going to sound a bit monotone.
I know. I hate reading out loud because I feel like I become illiterate.
It reminds me of, when you're at school and you all had to read a paragraph out,
I know.
but you were sort of like counting ahead and thinking,
Yeah.
I hope I don't get that paragraph, because there's words I can't say.
There's words I can't say in this story.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a few episodes where there's words I can't say. So I'm sure someone will sort of correct us along the way if we get it massively wrong.
Hopefully in a nice way.
Precursor now. But yeah, so you ready?
I'm not ready yet. Okay, fine. You ready, Amelia?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So, right. You ready, Amelia?
I am ready.
Right, today's first case is somewhat true crime, but mostly folklore.
Okay.
I'm taking it as folklore because it does and it doesn't seem believable.
Oh, okay.
So especially at the end with how it comes across, I'm taking it as folklore.
Oh, okay. I'm quite intrigued now.
It's very gothic at the end.
Oh, okay. I like this.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk about the Romanian serial killer, Vera Renzi.
Ooh, I love a good female serial killer.
She's dubbed a Black Widow, or a word I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to. She's considered folklore because there's so little reports of her and the crimes she's committed. The sources I found are from Ranker Wikipedia and a book called Epic Book of Mind-Boggling Lists.
That's a good book.
It's a good book. I want to go through that and read it. Could find some cases in there.
I was going to say, you might find some more.
Right. Vera was born in Bucharest, Romania, or Bucharest, however you pronounce it.
I think everyone says it differently. I don't think anyone actually knows. It's like a scone and a scone.
Yeah, true. So she's from Romania. There's reports she was born in 1903, but again, not confirmed. Can't confirm it or deny it. Yes, and due to the dates of her alleged crimes, sources believe she was most likely born before then, in the late 19th century.
Okay.
So there's not much information on her background. Her mother supposedly died when she was only 13, and she moved in with her father, who took her to Najibikskalik, which is modern-day Zrenjanin in Serbia, where she attended boarding school.
Okay.
Serbia, not Siberia. So it's not.
My geography is brilliant, Natasha.
Not in the middle of nowhere. Yes. So by the age of 15, it appears she was a typical rebellious teen. She was deemed unmanageable and frequently ran away with numerous boyfriends, many of whom were significantly older than her.
Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. This behaviour then grew into what childhood friends described as an almost pathological desire for constant male companionship, attention, and possessed a high and jealous nature.
Yeah, okay, she might need to address that a little bit, but it's fine.
Yeah, that could be linked to mental health issues, maybe not.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Don't know. Okay, Vera met her first husband, who is Karl Stick, a wealthy Austrian... I knew he was going to laugh. Stick.
Oh, I need to be mature.
Karl Stick, a wealthy Austrian banker. So she married him just before she was 20.
Okay.
They had a son named Lorenzo shortly after.
Okay.
Lorenzo Stick. Vera soon got bored of her simple married life, being stuck at home to look after the child while Carl was at work. She soon began to suspect Carl was being unfaithful, but I haven't found any reports as to why she suspected infidelity, whether she was bored or her jealous nature ran rampant. Or he was having an affair and she actually found evidence. Yeah. I don't know. But one night, in a jealous rage, Vera poisoned his wine with arsenic. And shortly after this, she began telling friends and family, and even the neighbours, that he had abandoned her and their son. After a year of pretending to mourn for her husband, she began telling them she had heard he had died in a car accident.
Okay. So, has the son not had anything to say about this? Or I'm guessing he hasn't noticed.
I don't know. There's no reports of the son.
Oh, okay.
This is why I'm not sure if it's real or not.
Oh, okay, yeah, go back. It's, limited.
Or he may have been murdered himself.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't consider. Because you'd like to think he'd notice if one parent just magically disappeared.
Yeah, and plus I'm not sure how after...
Oh, yeah, I suppose he might still be quite young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, sort of believe anything his parent says.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm assuming he's still a baby at this point.
Okay.
So, yeah. Shortly after allegedly hearing the news of her first husband's accident, Renzi remarried, this time to a man nearer her own age, but I'm not sure how old.
Okay.
I'm also not sure how old Carl was. There's very little information about this.
Okay. Which kind of is what makes it such a mystery. So.
Exactly. So it's unsolved. Don't know if it's true. It might be, might not be. Shortly after allegedly hearing the news of this, her first husband's death, she remarried to a man closer to her age. However, this relationship was also a tumultuous one. I can't say that. Tumultuous. Again, after being married to him for a short time, she suspected he was also having an affair. After only months of marriage, the man vanished, and she told friends and family that he had abandoned her again.
Oh, okay. Bit of a pattern developing here.
There's a pattern emerging. I want to know how she gets rid of all these men. If she murders them, how can she move their bodies?
I suppose it depends. She might be quite strong.
Maybe.
Deceivingly strong.
I wouldn't be able to do that. I just like, yeah.
I suppose it depends how angry. She's quite angry. Maybe in a rage.
That's true. Yeah, after another year had passed, she claimed to receive a letter from him proclaiming his intentions of leaving her forever. This would be her last marriage.
Okay, so she's claiming he wrote a letter to her.
Yes. I don't know if there's any evidence of this or not.
Okay. Because like, I suppose you don't really think about it necessarily at the time, and I suppose it depends if she actually showed anyone the letter. But I'd like to think like handwriting wise. And now like someone would question it, be like, is that his handwriting?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, there's no reports of like, there's no evidence.
She's written it with her left hand.
True, she might have done. I think she's probably not that too keen of detail. She was just like, yeah, he sent me a letter.
Yeah. Yeah, she's done it before. She's got away with it.
However, she didn't remarry, but she spent the next several years carrying out a number of affairs herself.
Oh, okay.
Some with married men and some were open marriages. The men came from an array of backgrounds and social positions. So it sounds like she's trying to climb up the social.
Yeah. And yes. I have a feeling a lot more of them might have been quite affluent.
Yeah. Again, all these men would vanish within months or weeks, or even some cases even days after becoming romantically involved with her.
Oh, bloody hell. It's like she just goes like based off something initially and then she's like, fuck, I don't like this one. Quick, go.
Oh, I guess that is like a Black Widow. She takes them for what she wants and then she runs away with everything else.
Yeah, true. Yeah, okay.
When connected to men she was openly having an affair with, she would invariably concoct stories of them being unfaithful and having abandoned her.
Oh, okay, so this goes back to her theories from before. Like this seems to be the thing that she's rolling with.
Yeah.
Although people around, would you not be a bit suspicious that like everyone's cheating on her?
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'd question it a bit. Exactly. I don't know if I'd just question too much, but
exactly, especially if like afterwards you're the one having the affair.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, if you're accusing someone of having an affair and they're not, you're the one having an affair.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So from her first husband, I assume she probably didn't like Carl, and then she was just bored. And maybe not wasn't having an affair at that point, but then she did.
Yeah, and then that sort of became a behaviour. I suppose it's like the people saying like those that were bullied turned into bullies. Not that that's necessarily what happened, but I suppose maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's consumed her so much that it kind of becomes her. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I think there's probably some mental health issues as well. Yeah,
it definitely sounds like this. Well, she's not of sound mind. If you just because I don't think people of perfect sound mind go around murdering people. So,
of course not. Okay, she was caught after having poisoned her last lover, a bank officer named Milorad. His wife reported his disappearance to the police, who ignored her, but she pursued an investigation on her own and rapidly found that Vera was her husband's mistress. She went back to the police, who then sent 2 inspectors to the chateau where Vera lived.
Oh, so she's not got like a little shitty house.
I know she's got a chateau. If she's killing all these men.
Yeah, banker as well, yeah.
Especially a chateau. I wonder how big
but
it
I kind
is.
of imagine still her house like it being sort of like, I don't know, not middle range, but you know what I mean? Like, I didn't think she'd be living in poverty, but I wasn't so expecting her to have a fucking chateau.
A chateau. I kind of want to see this chateau.
Yes, so do I.
She admitted to them that Milorad had been her lover, but he had quit her. Impressed by her beauty, wealth, and excellent reputation, the police abandoned their search.
Oh, so in the same way that she might have sort of charmed all these men, she's done exactly the same with the police.
Yeah.
She's probably played like an innocent victim sort of thing.
Yes.
Thought, oh God, she's harmless. Like, she couldn't do anything.
Well, just because she's rich doesn't mean she can't commit crimes.
Yeah, but, you know, like, she probably like can't even really read. She just sits in doing sewing all day. It's that kind of Vera, isn't it? It's
Vera. But it's like, just because she's beautiful as well, how beautiful can she be?
Apparently very beautiful.
True.
She's dazzled them.
Need to find a picture of Vera.
I love if she was like the ugliest person we've ever seen. Maybe that's what they were so freaked out, but they couldn't say she was so ugly, so they turned it the other way.
Well, she might be ugly, but her personality makes her beautiful in a way.
I think maybe she's obviously just so charming, like, but like in a convincing way.
Yeah.
She's talked her way out of it, hasn't she?
Yeah.
I think.
Now, there's a bit confusion of where this goes, because the wife went back to the police and started to ask questions which should have been asked a long time ago. Where was her husband, Joseph? And I don't know if Joseph is Milorad.
Oh, so that could be a first name or a surname.
Yeah. And then where was Lorenzo? And what happened to numerous other men who happened to be her lovers?
Yeah, what did happen to the son? Where's he disappeared to?
I don't know. This is what I'm saying. He might have just left. I don't know how.
I don't know, because they sound like they're quite close together, aren't they?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry, carry on. I've very much distracted you now.
So yeah, where was the son? What happened to the numerous other men who got in relationships with her? The police then went back to see her. And then not only did she deny that Milorad was her lover, which she admitted to before, but the police had proof. Oh, there's a letter. Milorad sent her a letter.
Okay, so he's
writing that he was her lover. So there's proof.
Oh, so there's no denying it now.
Yeah,
from her part.
But she admitted it in the first place.
Oh, and then tried to deny later. And
yeah.
I'm guessing they've then found the letter. And now she can't take it back, what she said.
The police got a search warrant and discovered a locked round cellar underground.
Oh, I like where this is going.
This is why I think it's such a gothic folklore tale, because it sounds not too good to be true, but it sounds as like a gothic house would be.
Okay.
It's too macabre to be real in my eyes.
It's almost like a weird, like, sort of fantasy sort of thing.
So, in the round cellar, it had 35 spaces, each with a zinc-lined coffin inside.
What?
In the middle of the cellar was a red armchair, a big church candle, and an empty bottle of champagne.
No.
See? It's just...
So that's where she's put her bodies then?
Yes.
What the fuck? How? That cellar must be fucking... 35, did you say?
35. I'm assuming, like, in my mind, they're all stood upright.
You what, like a Dracula sort of?
They're all stood upright.
I also feel like they're all in little suits with like little like bat bow ties.
Yeah, exactly. They're all stood up. The coffins are open.
Oh, I like the idea that she's just in there though. Is she in like the middle of the room, like speaking to them, telling them a bedtime story?
I assume so. Well, like what? Yeah. So she's sat in the middle of them. I assume they're stood upright, but I don't think that's right. I think they're probably laying on top of each other. Maybe. I don't know how big a round roomed cellar would be.
Oh, I imagine it literally like they're almost in like an arc, like almost like a U shape around the room. And then she's sort of like, you know, when you go to some like, is it auditoriums?
Yeah.
And like she's sort of in the middle, like where her seat is almost like where the stage is, and she's like performing to all these coffins.
Maybe.
So she's sort of going around like, you were shit. You were shit.
No, it's weird though, because she does have abandonment issues because she's kept the bodies.
Yeah, so she's not let them go. Like, she's killed them. She hates them enough to kill them, but she doesn't actually want to let them go. Plus, I suppose it's a good way of hiding them, because traditionally someone's probably looking for, I don't know, a bit of undisturbed earth in the garden.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a room.
They're not looking for a room of 35 coffins. But yeah, I imagine it's like almost in a weird way a bit luxurious. But you know, like when you watch like old style movies and it's like everything's candle lit.
Yes.
That's how I kind of imagine it.
Candelabras.
But but it's weirdly luxurious all at the same time.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting like velvet walls. This is
almost
why I
like
think...
the house out of either like Munsters or oh my goodness, Addams Family.
Yeah, this is what I think.
I hope it was like that.
This is why I think it's made up. I think the Addams Family and the Munsters were probably in this era, so then everyone's like, there's a woman with 35 bodies in the basement.
It's like a good story, like something you say on Halloween to like
exactly.
spook people.
Exactly. Right, I lost where I was. So yeah, 35 spaces with coffins inside. She told them that they were all family members, but they insisted on opening one coffin, in which was the decomposed body of a man. Then they opened all the other ones in which they found the same thing, and they're linked to reports of the men she was supposedly seeing.
Oh, okay, so a lot of these missing men have surfaced.
Yes. Arrested, she confessed that she had poisoned all of them with arsenic when she suspected that they had been unfaithful to her, or when she believed that their interest in her was waning. So she can have the affair, but they can't.
Yeah, so it's like, I do what I want, but you actually can't leave me.
Yes. She also confessed to the police that on occasion she liked to sit in the armchair surrounded by all the coffins of her former lovers. Of course she does. That's why the chair's there.
I really do like the idea that she sort of like had dinner and then she just casually goes down in the evening before she goes to bed, has a little chat with them. And then, like, I don't know, it almost really like discusses her day, maybe.
Maybe. I can't imagine she lives alone in this chateau, though.
No, well, this is why I'm curious as to what's happened to her son. I also feel like if he's still about, though, he's kind of a weirdly, like, annoying, like, snotty-nosed brat. I don't know why. But also a bit weird, because his mum's weird, obviously.
Of
course.
She
has 35 bodies and so
He wears a suit.
Has he discovered... Yes, he wears a suit.
He wears a suit and he's 5 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like... Is he not questioned where she goes? Maybe she reads him a bedtime story. He sat on her lap. She's like, this is your previous family. That's granddad. That's great granddad.
That's your dad over there. Say hi to him. There's no reports of her son.
Oh, yeah. So is it because he wasn't real, or has something happened? Or is he there and, like I said, just being some weird little child?
I don't know. This is why I don't think this story is real. This is why I chose it as the first one. And this is why I don't feel so bad about this. Because I'm thinking it's not real.
Okay.
So I'm thinking like, oh yeah, we can sit in a room surrounded by coffins. To me, it's not real.
In a weird way, like, it'd be a bit creepy. But it also, I feel like it'd be quite cool in a weird way.
Oh, I do want to go to is it the catacombs?
Yes.
I do want to go.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to, like, jump out at you.
No.
Although there'd be a small part of me that's slightly worried that someone might, like, actually do that.
What, someone dressed as a skeleton?
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, thank you. Okay. So after she was arrested, she was convicted of 35 murders and sentenced to death. But at the time, Yugoslavia did not execute women. She was instead condemned to life in prison. During her trial, she started showing signs of dementia, which I guess maybe not at that time was the thing. Maybe she's just mentally ill.
I think that time, any slight thing that was it's like, you're deranged, so we'll just lock you up.
Yeah, true. Oh, you have your monthly women issue.
Yeah, you cried once.
It's off to the asylum with you. God, imagine being a woman back in the day.
I'd have been locked up a long time ago.
Of course you would. You'd been, what's the pickaxe to the eye?
Oh, is it lobotomy?
Yeah, lobotomy. You'd be lobotomized. Half your brain works. Okay, yes.
Might knock some sense into me, you never know.
So, showing signs of dementia. It became worse and worse in prison that she ended up talking to her victims and screaming obscenities. She apparently died in 1960, and this was reported as a brain hemorrhage.
Okay, so she's full on turned into some mad woman by the end. Although, to be fair, I feel like if you've been locked in a place, and I also feel like the conditions wouldn't have been brilliant.
No.
You probably, even if you were sane before, you're probably going to go a little bit mad by that point. Because I feel like she's probably just been thrown in there and then left.
True, and I'm assuming, I don't really know when she was arrested, but I'm assuming she's in jail as the war's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So conditions are probably...
shite.
Yes. Not the great. It is worth noting that all reports of this case can be traced back to a single source in a US magazine published in the period, but I'm not sure which period.
Oh, right, okay.
So 1960 or before then. And despite extensive research in the region where the case is said to have taken place, there's no original local source material, there's nothing. For that matter, no evidence has been found to support the existence of Renzi or her conviction. It is possible that such records were lost in the political turmoil in Yugoslavia and the area in the intervening years, but it could be fiction.
Okay. I suppose there's an element, though, if you're saying, was it the US Army?
US magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the woman in jail could have been a legitimate woman. but a mad woman already. And sort of like, I don't know, she's made up these stories. Like, you know when people like they claim to have done other things? Yeah. So she could have almost made up this woman, if you like, and like claimed to have been her.
Yeah.
But because there's so little reports,
yeah,
it's a case of like, actually, the whole thing behind the story isn't real, but that woman at the end, the one that's in prison, was very much a real woman. She's just deranged by this point and making shit up.
Yeah. There is one newspaper article existing, and it's a Yugoslavian one dated the 20th of May 1925 and reproduced in the Danville Bee of Danville, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So that's the one and only thing in existence. So I think, there might have been a woman originally, and then stories just got thrown in.
Yeah. Yeah, and all you've got to do is, how I suppose, have a birth certificate somewhere along the way, and that line, if then that person's dropped off, it's quite easy to make up stories in between.
Exactly. So so she could have existed, but she may have not committed these crimes.
Okay. And equally the same, that mad woman could have made her up.
Yes.
Okay.
And obviously, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, it couldn't be proven that she had murdered 35 people, but if she had, she'd probably be in that book.
Oh, is that the most murders
committed by a woman? Yes.
Ooh.
So that is the...
I kind of hope they can find a bit more information. I'd love if this is like somewhere down the line, like someone like opens up a box somewhere and they're like, yes, we've solved it, because...
But I think because of the area and it's Eastern European.
Yeah.
World War One and Two.
Yeah, a lot's damaged by that point, isn't it?
So there's no records.
And I don't feel like it's the sort of thing... I don't feel like their bookkeeping was brilliant.
No. And obviously things would have been lost.
Yeah. A lot of stuff hidden as well, I think.
Or destroyed. So yeah, that's the case of Vera Renzi. Probably folklore and made up.
No, but it's interesting, isn't it? I think it's more the coughing, that whole cellar.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do it.
It's gripped you, hasn't it? Yeah. It's like that's what gets you.
That's the thing that as soon as I read that, I was like, I'm going to tell Amelia.
No, so I do like that.
She's
I'm impressed.
Write that bit, yeah. But yeah, I was thinking monsters in the Addams Family as soon as I read it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I have pictured in my head.
The coffins all stood up in a circle around this massive armchair with a candelabra.
Yeah, I like the idea that she's in there with like a glass of wine, or like a goblet sort of thing.
Yes, goblet. Yes.
And that's what she's just casually strolling around her cellar and with all of the other men. Although I do know what you said before though, like how is she getting them down there? Is she wheeling them down?
I don't know. This is why I think she might have like staff.
Yeah, but then surely one of them would have.
I don't know. But
spilled the beans.
If she's rich,
is the son helping drag them down? Let's play a game.
But I don't think the son would help. I don't know how old.
I suppose though, if she's living in a massive chateau, then it's quite hidden away. If she's not got a massive amount of visitors, it'd be quite easy for her to she wouldn't have to do it in one go necessarily. It'd be quite easier.
She has like a chute to the basement.
It just drops them down.
Yeah, and then
there is another option, but I feel like she'd have to maybe get them a little bit pissed first. Although that's why she put in the arsenic. If she led them down there,
yes,
climbing. Let's go to bed
in the basement.
This is a bit cozy. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Have another drink.
Yeah, I just sleep in a coffin.
Although that's kind of a little like it's freaky. But I think like if I genuinely didn't have to go to sleep, I think I'd kind of want to lay in a coffin.
Some people would be into that. Of course they would be.
Yeah, you're not a bit curious though, just to get in. But like not go to sleep because I feel like someone might actually shut me in there.
Oh yeah, I could be in a coffin. I just don't want the lid closing.
I imagine it's quite snug. Like I know it's not really an issue when you're dead, but like I feel like, you know, if you try to get in there while you're alive, like you'd be like, I can't get in, I don't fit.
Oh, when you're not all stiff.
Yeah. Just like, well, I feel like they'll just like squash you in.
Kind of fold you in.
Yeah. It's fine. The head's facing all the right way. If you've got to do open casket, it's fine.
No, with your arse up?
I suppose it depends if someone's had to like just throw you in.
Shove you in, yeah. But yeah, I don't think it's a real story.
It's still interesting though.
It is interesting. That's why I was like, true crime, but it's also macabre and maybe not real.
It's one you like to listen to though, isn't it?
Yeah. I really want to hear yours. Because
I'm quite excited.
We don't know each other's cases, but you keep hinting and I'm like, I want to know, but you have to tell me so we get each other's reaction naturally.
Yeah, I know. I've been waiting to tell you this for like weeks now.
Are you ready to begin yours?
Yeah, ready now. Okay. I'm really excited to tell you this one.
I'm dying to know because you keep hinting with the name and I'm like, I don't know who you're on about.
It's Hombit, right? And this one, it really gets me. Like, I'll have to give you a bit of a background about this person in general first, because this one genuinely threw me out, and it took me ages to work out that this person was not who I thought it was.
Okay.
Because when you hear the name, you're going to hear it and be like, I don't recall this person.
You keep hinting at his name, and if I know nothing of this person, it's going to be a major letdown.
You will. Okay. You genuinely, I think, especially people around our age, maybe even our parents' age, they definitely will have learned about this person at school. I don't know anyone that didn't learn about this person at school.
Okay.
And I genuinely thought this case was about this person that we learned in school. And I was like, I can't believe this, because I don't remember learning about this at school. I don't remember this person being murdered. Like, I thought they died of natural causes. And for me, it wasn't until partway through that I realised it's actually a different person with an identical name.
Okay.
But what freaks me out about it is this person has an identical name, did exactly the same job, won the same awards for this job. So I was like, yeah, it's definitely got to be this person.
Who are you on about?
You wait for you. When I tell you, you'll be like, what? So they won all the same things. And then it turns out they've got exactly the same name, did exactly the same jobs, lived at the same time, and they are related.
Okay.
It completely threw me out. I was like, what?
Okay.
So what would you say if I told you that Florence Nightingale
Oh.
was murdered on a train? Because that's like Lady with a Lamp. I was like, I'm sure she just died of like old age or something, or a cold.
I was genuinely not expecting Florence Nightingale.
So you imagine when I was looking through for cases, because I picked this one up basically from a book.
Oh, can you imagine being related to Florence Nightingale?
Yeah.
And you're not as good as that Florence.
But this one was.
Okay.
And this is why it threw me out, because as I was reading through details, she's like, yeah, she won like the is it the Royal Red Cross. She won medals for that, her work that she's done. And I was like, it's got to be that one. And I was like, but I was thinking, I'm sure when we're back at school, like, I'm pretty sure our teachers would have mentioned if she'd been murdered.
Yeah.
And I was like, it can't be. And I kept reading through this book, but obviously I've already sort of told you now, it's not Florence Nightingale. It is Florence Nightingale, but it's not.
Are they cousins? How are they related?
I'm going to tell you.
Obviously they won't be sisters, because then that would be...
It would be weird, wouldn't it?
Mother-daughter?
I'm going to tell you.
Oh...
Right, okay. So basically, the murder, I obviously picked this from the book. I've got a few other sources, so we'll include that in a link with sort of the podcast. So if people want to read up on it more, they can, because there's parts of this where I've included bits about it, but if I could make a whole podcast on the suspects alone. So I'll have to include links to other things if people want to delve into it a bit more. But yeah, basically, it is called the Railway Murder.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this lady's full name is Florence Nightingale Shaw. Okay, and it all starts off, obviously,
they're married. Their daughter. Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to start off, she's obviously murdered on a train. I've already disclosed that. And it starts on day Florence and her friend Mabel Rogers make their way across London to Victoria Station. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit of a background on Florence. So she's been back in London, in England, obviously, from France in November. She was obviously doing nursing work out there. She's been friends with Mabel, very close friends, for 26 years. So a good friendship.
Very good friendship,
in that time, 26 years, it's a long time. She is the daughter of someone called Offley Bowen Shaw, whose family gained prominence during the English Civil War. And at one point, the family had owned the Shaw Bank in Sheffield and had Tapton Hall built. But that fortune was lost in 1843 when the bank failed and was forced to close. So they severed all their ties with Sheffield and moved south. Then, obviously years later, a cousin, William Shaw, later inherited Lea Hurst estate in Derbyshire from Peter Nightingale and assumed the Nightingale name. He would then become the father to Florence Nightingale, Lady with a Lamp. And Florence's cousin, Florence Nightingale Shaw, became her goddaughter after she was born in 1865.
Also, I was kind of right, cousins and daughter.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah, goddaughter. So, that's where it threw me out. I had to read half a fucking book to find that out. And then I wasn't disappointed, but I was so confused for all this time. I was generally like, what the hell?
Oh, yeah, of course. They've got the same exact name.
Yeah. And I just thought, maybe like it's cool they missed off the Shaw bit.
Yeah.
Maybe thought it was too long-winded for children, so they just left it off. But obviously it wasn't. So it's another woman. So, like her godmother and cousin, Florence had worked in a nurse in the military. She'd served in the South African War in the 1900s. Obviously, 1914 to 1980, she was in the First World War. And she was awarded medals, including the Royal Red Cross. At the beginning of her nursing career, she'd actually started out in Edinburgh in 1893, and she was a midwife for most of that time before she sort of started her war work. And even though obviously her cousin and godmother was quite prominent, she had quite a bit of not anonymity, what's it?
Animosity.
Is it?
Animosity?
What's the one where you're like...
Resentful.
No!
Oh.
You're able to... Oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for?
Admire?
No, she's able to sort of hide behind name, even though she's got a well-known name. Like, she's not... it's not like she's wandering around.
It is kind of animosity.
I thought that's like when you... No, that's when you don't like someone, isn't it?
No, I said animosity.
Yeah, that's when you don't like someone. Anonymity. There we go. See, we told you we can't say words. We got there in the end. You know what I mean. Basically, even though she had a well-known name, she was able to sort of hide behind it, if you like. So obviously she's...
Was she faking being...
Well, no, because a lot of it as well, like where she gained a lot of her prominence would have been in that South African war. So she would have been with a lot of African soldiers, and they refer to her as a white queen. But even though in the UK she would have been a bit better known, a lot of South African soldiers wouldn't have necessarily put the association together, if you like. So she was able, and especially before midwife, even though she's won awards for her bravery and all the work that she's done, I think she still lived a pretty quiet life. I don't think she was one of those to sort of like show off about her awards. I think she just sort of kept herself to herself.
Yeah, can I ask a question about the White Queen?
Yes.
I'm assuming because she's known as the White Queen, the soldiers black Africans?
I'm presuming so.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Okay.
Okay,
so now I'm going to take you to the day of the murder.
Okay.
So she was due to catch a 3:20 p.m. train to St. Leonard's to visit some more friends. Her and Mabel arrived at the station early, and Florence boarded the train at around 3:15. Now this is where it gets a bit complicated because the train's in two halves. The first half was London to Hastings, and the train consisted of 11 carriages that travelled as far as Lewes, and then the front half would be uncoupled and go on to Eastbourne, and the second half would go to Hastings.
Okay.
So it's not like, like today, this is where I found it a bit different. Your whole train,
goes
when you get on the train,
place, yeah.
And, or if it's stopping off somewhere and the whole train doesn't fit on the thing, they say like you've got to move to carriages A and B and
to
whatever.
fit on the platform.
Yeah. That's not how it was done in those days.
Oh, no,
they would send someone down the ramp to sort of assist you off the train.
Yeah.
And that's important later on, and you'll find out why. I wonder if maybe they stopped that because of cases like this. I do wonder that.
I think it's probably just dangerous as well.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Because it's
just
easier.
Basically jumping on a live track.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably why
people
died.
Absolutely no issue with that.
Yeah, people died all the time back then.
But yes, anyway, so she gets onto the train on the last but one carriage, third class non-smoking. So considering she's got a bit more money, she's not like showing off her wealth. She's just happily sitting at the back of the train, lower class, not bothered. Now, there's no other passengers in that carriage that compartment when Florence gets on. Mabel isn't going with her to visit these other friends, but she does get on the train and helps her sort of put her luggage on and sits beside her for a few minutes before the train's due to depart.
Okay, that's...
So like she's helping a friend, maybe saying like the goodbyes. And then Mabel then gets off the train at the sound of the guard's whistle. Now, as Mabel steps off...
Suspicious.
Yeah, she steps off and she's going to wave Florence away from the platform. So she's a good friend, making sure, she sets off safely. As she does, at the same time, a young man in a brown suit pushes past them and climbs into the same compartment as Florence. So there's now technically Florence and this man. This is according to Mabel, I'd like to point out.
These train carriages, there's no corridors, right? It's like that carriage is for...
Yes, so it's a very old-fashioned, So there might be a carriage, but it might have like 4 compartments. So, before, like it was like the slidey doors. That's what I imagine.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with in my head.
Yeah. So, like, that carriage, you can only get on that one door.
Yeah, you can't walk through the train like you would nowadays. So she's... According to Mabel, this man now gets on.
Mabel.
And, it's... the man in the brown suit and Florence in this compartment together.
I don't like that, but okay.
Okay, so obviously the train departs. It arrives at Lewes Station on time. As I've said before, not all the carriages can fit on the platform. So the station master, Mr. Marchant, sends guard Henry Duck, which is a brilliant surname.
Henry Duck. I like it.
I like the idea of him like being down the station shouting duck, and then like a load of people, you know, like now we duck. I really like that idea.
Duck comes waddling by, like, come on.
Oh, I've gone massively off topic now, but that's what I'm imagining in my head anyway.
Duck.
Right, so he's supposed to go down to the platform slope to help any passengers get off, as I said before.
Mm-hmm.
On this occasion, no one did get off. However, the guard did later report that there had been a man that had been seen jump down by himself and wandered into the station, but didn't seem suspicious at the time. Okay. The description that he gave was of a young man in an overcoat and a white muffler. So that's a bit like, you know, like a big scarf you sort of pull up over your face.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm smiling. Muffler.
I know, I had to giggle. This is where later on there's a bit of a discrepancy in the description. But it made me giggle. And I was like, it's like so immature.
Duck and muffler. That'd be like crime agency. Duck and muffler.
That's a good idea for, you know, one of those shit but good movies.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's the next project for us.
There we go.
Okay. Right. So no issues there. The train was uncoupled. The rear carriages become the Hastings train, and it was scheduled to make stops at a place called Polegate. Now at Polegate, 3 plate layers, which is basically like railway employees, so they look after the railway, maintain it.
Yep.
They get on at Polegate, and their names are George Clout, Thomas Ransom, and Ernest Thomas. They get into the carriage that Florence is in.
Okay.
Right. So when they get in there, her head is resting on the back of the seat, slumps like she was sleeping, so they're not immediately suspicious.
Okay.
Her feet on top of a newspaper on the floor of the carriage, which I thought was a little bit weird, but apparently not to them, and a book lay open in her lap. So I'm guessing they think she's just sort of dozed off.
Also, newspapers probably like, was it raining that day? Might be like,
I don't know. I didn't manage to find that out. Maybe you're onto something there. Okay, so to be fair, this next point, it could have been raining because of the time of the year meant that it was now dark outside. So I imagine they've not been on the train. She obviously departed originally at 3:20, so I'm guessing we're talking winter time, aren't we? So it was dark outside, and the plate layers just believed she was sleeping, so they didn't really pay much attention to her. They'd noticed what looked like dry blood on her face, but it wasn't until they arrived at Bexhill, which is about 15 minutes further on.
So if it's dark outside, what's the lighting like in the carriage?
I imagine it's quite dim.
So is it like candlelight, or is it? Do they have?
It's like 1920. Lamps? So is it oil lamps?
Oil lamps?
I think like Lady in the Lamp. I'm really gone with this now. So maybe. I feel like it's very dim lighting, if any lighting at all.
So they probably wouldn't have noticed. They probably just thought it was a shadow.
Well, they later it goes on to say, you know, like a bit of a veil on top in front of some hats that you can get. Yeah. I think they just sort of thought maybe the dry blood was a bit of a veil off a hat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it wasn't until they reached Bexhill, which is only 15 minutes down the line, that they realised how much blood it was, and they called for the station guard.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is the injuries that she sort of sustained. Obviously, they've called for help. She had sustained head injuries. The police have later hypothesised that her body had been purposely moved away from the window on the platform side so that she couldn't be seen clearly by the plate layers. So the way she's sort of slumped in the corner gives her that impression that she's sleeping. Her coat collar had been lifted to frame her face, again given the appearance of her resting. So I imagine it's quite a high collar on her coat. She was taken to East Sussex Hospital in Hastings, so she's not dead yet.
Okay. Oh, she's not dead yet.
Yeah, no. Ooh. She dies 4 days later on the 16th of January with May bullet aside, having never gained her consciousness. So she's never able to give a description of her attacker.
So is she, I'm assuming she's unconscious.
Just in the train,
And then never.
Yeah, never gains her consciousness. 4 days later. Okay. That's it. So, you know, she survived the war, but, you know, bashed in the head.
God.
It's unfortunate. Oh. I mean, I suppose it's a bit more exciting than dying of a cold, but I think I don't know what's worse. I think I'd rather be bashed in the head. I feel like that's quicker than dying from a cold.
Yeah, but I don't want to be murdered.
Yeah, but if you don't really realise, maybe it's quite quick. Because I feel like if she's unconscious,
it's not quick. Really aware. She's still.
Yeah, but by all accounts, she's unconscious, though.
Yeah, but I'm assuming there's 1920. I'm not very good with medical knowledge, but I'm assuming there's no pain tolerance. There's no. You can't.
She strikes me quite a brave lady. I don't know. I'd like to think maybe she was hit out so much. Just maybe if she was alive, she maybe just had a bit of a fuzzy head.
A head injury that kills her. That's going to hurt. And for 4 days too.
Yeah.
You're not going to have any anaesthetic or any...
I mean, maybe that's
morphine.
I'm sure she's chopped off a few legs at a time, so maybe some soldiers were like, hey, lob my leg off. So
morphine?
Maybe. There must have been some sort of pain relief, because it's not like pirate times where they're getting a saw out. Like, they've obviously got to saw the leg off, but I feel like they might have given you something rather than a stick to bite on.
You just bite on a stick.
Was that still that late? I feel by that time they'd improved its light.
I don't know. When's Jekyll and Hyde? Not Jekyll and Hyde. Oh my God. The grave diggers.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, we've now massively gone off tangent.
The one's in Scotland. Birkenhair.
Okay.
Not Jekyll and Hyde. Jesus. That's close enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so obviously with even though she sort of retained a relatively quiet life, obviously as soon as it was reported, due to obviously her recognition for her nursing, there was a lot of interest in the case. So,
oh yeah, of course.
The manhunt sort of spread across the whole of the south of England.
Is the other Nightingale alive at this point?
I don't know, actually.
Because would they think it was her, like you did?
I don't know. When did the actual Florence Nightingale die?
I don't know.
I didn't check this.
Okay. No, I just wondered, because I thought, obviously a woman being murdered, especially in that time, is going to be like very newsworthy. But then you throw in Nightingale, you're going to be
I
like,
suppose they've both won awards for the work, haven't
yeah.
they? So there will have been some crossover at some point, won't there?
True. And if she's her cousin, but also goddaughter, that's going to... I'm assuming she's going to be a little bit younger.
I think so,
yeah. So maybe, I don't know.
I'll have a little look. I'll come back to that one. Maybe I'll have to do a mini, like a follow-up episode.
Yeah.
And we've covered all these extra bits we were unsure on. Anyway, so obviously we've said before, she's clearly upper class. But obviously she decided to travel third class on the train. But it did cause some to wonder if that's why she was targeted. So basically, the police main sort of idea is like a robbery gone wrong, if you like.
So what they're thinking is people know she's rich.
Yeah, and have targeted.
But would they know who she is?
I don't know.
Okay, because
so like, she's kept it quite quiet.
Does she look like she's rich? Is the thing. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't think so. This is where Mabel sort of comes in a little bit for me.
Mabel.
Okay, so according to her friend Mabel, that when she boarded the train, she had 3 £1 notes, a train ticket, a small amount of jewellery. So nothing like showy offy.
But £3 notes back then is probably
quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting this, because as I said to you before, I find it a bit weird. Like, how did Mabel know? Because it's not like when I go to you for coffee, I don't know how much you have in your purse.
Nothing.
Snap. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit of a weird thing for her to know.
Like, you don't know I have 2 £5 notes, 2 pennies and a pound, and you don't know.
So I feel like, is this just Mabel saying she might have some things to possibly create a story and make it seem like a robbery? Possibly.
Or Mabel was there when she got the £3 notes out.
Also possible. True. And maybe they'd had a conversation. Maybe she asked her, are you going to be okay? Have you got enough money to travel? She could have gone, I've got 3 £1 notes, that'll see me through, whatever. True. And she noticed the jewellery. Like, I noticed your necklace or your rings or whatever. You notice these things. Anyway, the jewellery, it was still nothing really flashy, but it consisted of a single ring with 5 inset diamonds, a gold necklace chain with an amethyst drop, which I thought you'd quite like that one. I know you're a fan of amethyst.
That sounds nice.
And a gold wristlet watch, which in today's value is it was valued at about £100 then, so today's 3,000. So it's expensive. It's expensive jewellery. Yeah. But I don't think she was the sort to make it really flashy. Like, I feel like she probably had a necklace on, but she's wearing a coat. She wasn't flashing it off. All of these were missing when she was found. So they obviously established robbery as a motive. Now, when the pathologist came along days later, that was a man called Dr. Bernard Spilsby. And he told the court that she'd been struck on the head at least 3 times with a heavy object, possibly the butt of a revolver. He said there was no signs of a struggle and that she'd been struck as she was seated. He said that he felt that her death was a deliberate act, so an intentional one.
Yeah.
So he's basically going with that it's a murder. So
I know you don't want to draw attention to yourself with a gunshot, but beating someone over the head with a gun just sounds like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's easier to just shoot them.
Okay. So now at this point, obviously the police are having to look into it. They've opened an investigation.
Yeah.
So the police believe that the attack had happened somewhere between Victoria Station and the stop at Lewes. Probably as the train passed through a tunnel, so not to be seen in daylight by housing overlooking the sides. Because you remember when she first left, there was still a bit of daylight.
Yeah.
So doing it in a tunnel would make sense. Sound goes a bit muffled in there as well. It's dark.
That's true.
Easy to attack her. There's no defence wounds, so it's not like she's seen her attacker come in. And police believe that whoever it was that had jumped off the train and was seen by Henry Duck was the killer. And that the killer was familiar with the Southern Railway network because he's got to be able to get himself out. The reason that he had to be familiar enough was because he needs to be able to... Obviously, he couldn't walk a good portion of the train, but he needed to know that where it was going to be uncoupled.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean? So because you have options, when it's uncoupled, you can either get off, walk along and get back on if you want to go to Eastbourne. So he's going to need to know that he's got to get off at the back and then back on the front. But that would be kind of a good way if you wanted to murder, because you murder them in there, you've got on, you've not got to go through the stations and be stopped by someone. You literally getting on a train and going in a slightly different direction.
True. And then, you've disappeared, you've gone. Yep. Yeah,
so that was one option of how they escaped. The second was to mingle with the rest of the crowd as they left the train. 30 to 50 people were said to be on the platform at that time. So I suppose it's still relatively easy to find yourself there. And then to move to another platform from there.
Yeah.
So that's still possible without leaving the train station.
Mm-hmm.
The other option was to stay on that platform and board the next train that was going to Seaford or Tunbridge Wells. So you'd have to get off the train and just linger around on the platform. So you'd have to hope you had no blood on you, because otherwise it's going to look a bit obvious.
True, yeah, you'd have some blood spatter from hitting someone 3 times.
Yeah. So if they didn't do that, any of the above would mean the killer would have to go through the ticket barrier, which means obviously he's got the risk of being seen.
Well, what's the ticket barrier like back then?
I don't know, I feel like they would have still stopped, because I feel like they were still quite strict on that sort of thing.
Maybe.
So it was that led the police to sort of believe that the killer knew the layout, sort of knew how they could sneak out, at what points they could sneak out. Obviously, Henry said that guy just jumped off and disappeared into the crowd, so still a possibility. So, at this point, no other clues are found. The stolen jewellery didn't resurface. So, that to me is, later on, I'm sort of questioning, was there any stolen jewellery in the first place? Or was it a case of it was sold on? Because I feel like some of those things are quite specific. So with it being a high profile case, if someone like rocked up to like a pawn shop and tried to pawn the jewellery, they'd have been like, oh, I've read this in the newspaper. You must be the killer because you have that jewellery. Like, I feel like it's quite specific.
Yeah, you're going to know what. Yeah.
And it's not like standard everyday jewellery, is it? Like, no. I feel like it's expensive enough that it would stand out from the average person. So basically, months pass, and by the end of the year, Scotland Yard have come up with a suspect, and this is where the suspects come in. Scotland Yard believe it's a man called Percy Topless. He was so-called by them a so-called master of disguise. So
master of disguise, Percy.
Yeah, so he was the right build, he matched the age profile, and he served in the army. But he was absent without leave at the time of the murder.
Okay, so that's a little suspicious. Yeah.
He is a known killer and had served in the army in the medical corps, but not in France. So there's a possibility he's met her at some point, but also kind of loosely based. Army, there's a lot of people there, isn't there? So
hold on, also, you kind of just washed over that he's a killer.
Yeah, it's he's
just okay. Why is he out? Why is he not in jail?
Let me pause. I've lost my marker now.
I'm sorry. He's in the army, but he's a killer. Why is that?
Yeah, I've got it further down.
Okay. So is he not arrested?
No, so basically, he's later convicted of a killing, but at the time he's not.
Okay.
but I'll tell you how it gets to him and why he's then sort of written out as a suspect.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so this wasn't like other crimes he'd actually been linked to at this point. So I've written known killer, but it's because he's known later on. But up in this time, it's not like any crimes he's done. So that kind of works in his defence. He liked guns and firing them. So beating someone seemed a little bit out of character. Like, I feel like if you like shooting guns, basically this is a lot of what his crimes were linked to were just like firing guns often. So I feel like he's probably had a bit of what today would be classed as PTSD. Is that right?
PTSD,
yeah. He's probably, maybe having some form of night terrors. He's going around shooting guns. Yeah. And he's obviously absent without leave, so he's just gone a bit AWOL.
To his mental,
back in those days, it wasn't really considered a thing.
No.
Or at least not as a medical term. They're just maybe seen as a bit of a nuisance.
They just need to man up and whatever. It's like, It's like, no, there's some issues there.
But that's the issue. That's for me where it sort of comes from. This is why, obviously it's a suspect for the police, but I'm a bit like, He couldn't be questioned properly, though, about his involvement in Florence's murder because he was shot to death in a gun battle with the police in June 1920, so less than 6 months after the murder.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, suspect number 2. This was 10 days after the attack.
Okay.
So on the 22nd of January at 10:30 p.m, a man attempted to burgle a house in Arlington Road, Eastbourne. The household staff stopped him. He dropped his revolver when escaping, but was apprehended on nearby Orchard Road. He was identified as William Ernest Clements. He was 28 years old, 5'7", slim yet well built, and fitted Mabel's description of the man that she saw getting on the train with Florence back at the Victoria Station.
Okay.
The revolver that was found and associated with him could have caused similar injuries and was found to have blood on the butt of it. So that could have been...
Well, I think you found the killer.
I'm not convinced. Search of his house also uncovered blood-stained suit. When questioned...
You're not convinced.
When questioned, he couldn't account for his whereabouts and he couldn't accurately recall what he'd been doing.
I can tell you what he's been doing. 10
days between the attack and the arrest. Police, however, couldn't prove there was no evidence of him ever being on the train or having a train ticket. And they brought Mabel in to identify him, but she could not identify him. So there was no proof of him ever being on the train. I feel like a lot of people had revolvers at that time.
To be fair, I wouldn't have recognised anyone we saw from 10 days ago. If someone got on a train with you.
But she was so very certain, like, because later on you look at it, she also does a parade of other people and she's very certain in what she sees.
But in passing, you're going to forget. Unless you've got a photographic memory. I'm sorry, Mabel, but I don't think you do.
No, I don't. But this is why later on, I feel like Mabel's a suspect for me. You don't understand why.
Yeah, but then the man who got on afterwards.
But basically, this man has no link other than the fact he has a similar coloured suit, but isn't the same. Right, he's got butt of a gun. He's done. He's already been arrested.
It's got blood on it.
Wait, no, let me finish.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm just like...
I've just knocked the mic now. I'm going to have to replay that bit.
It's fine. It might not be too bad.
Basically, it's later on he's linked to a string of robberies in which, and some of them, like, he's come into contact with people. So that blood might have been nothing to do. It's just a coincidence.
Did they not test the blood?
They can't then.
Yeah.
So he's known for robberies, not any other violent crimes. He just takes like petty amounts. So to then go murder someone on a train seems a bit extreme. Plus, for me, like, I feel like that's quite a common way of robbing people. This was all in houses in Eastbourne. Okay, that's the station after where they'd been uncoupled. But I feel he could have known the train lines. But I feel like it's more likely that was his sort of area. Was like did petty crimes.
His MO is houses.
Yeah. And robbing couple of pounds and a bit of bread and then off again. I feel like jewellery.
Oh, don't say bread. That makes it sound really...
But this was it. Like, he was quite a poor man. It was more like he was stealing to keep himself alive. So I feel like jewellery, especially expensive jewellery, like he would have struggled.
Yeah.
I think even by someone like his standards, it would have been quite difficult to kind of get rid of.
Yeah, extreme.
So I think it's just for police, it was convenient because he's got a revolver. He has a suit in a vaguely similar colour.
I mean, it sounds suspicious.
It does, definitely. I understand why he became a suspect, but obviously Mabel couldn't identify him. This was literally, remember, 10 days after as well.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I don't remember someone from 10 days ago.
I don't know, certain ones, I feel like when something happens, I really overthink a certain scenarios. I can quite go over people that I've seen. But yes, anyway, suspect kind of 3. There was a confession in November 1920.
Oh.
A man called George Leonard Cockle
Cockle
was being cared for at the Shirley Warren Infirmary in Southampton. And he said that he wanted to make a statement to the police. The story seemed plausible at first. He described how he viciously attacked Florence before taking several items from her, including jewellery and money. However, all the information he provided...
was from the newspapers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd already been printed. So it already created a cloud of doubt. Police were going to get Mabel to identify him after he'd been discharged. But on November the 17th, investigators from Scotland Yard confirmed his confession to be false after they discovered he was being treated in a military hospital in London on the day of the attack.
Okay, so he's mentally ill. And...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, and then this is where another suspect comes in. And this one is the one where I said to you it goes a bit MI5.
Oh,
yes.
I forgot about MI5.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
This is why it's such a good case, because it's so complex.
Okay.
And this one, I'm going to have to definitely add a link to something else, because there is pages. I literally could make a whole podcast on this bit, this person alone.
I think we should, but yes, continue.
So I'm going to have to sort of like briefly go over it, give you the main facts, but you get a gist of it. Now, this man is a man called Ernest Brown. He was actually, when you go back, I found this later, was actually the first person to be arrested in connection with this, but was later released.
Okay.
He worked as a secretary in the branch of Comrades of the Great War in Glasgow. So she's obviously worked in Edinburgh, so there's a bit of a crossover. He was a former captain in the RAF. He matched the description of a man in a brown suit.
A brown suit sounds disgusting, by the way.
He ended up being a suspect in 2 further unsolved mysteries in a period spanning 4 years and was not convicted of a single one of them.
Oh.
Okay. Now, Florence Nightingale Shaw's brother had served in the military in Russia during 1918 to 1920 and could have worked along the side of man, but after this period of time, he made suggestions of espionage. Okay, so he kind of blows things up a bit later on. And Florence's cousin, Raphael Farina, was a spy for MI5 and part of the espionage scandal that helped crash Britain's then serving Labour government. So a brother and a cousin, they're kind of stirring a bit of shit about the time that she's murdered.
Then why would they murder Florence? To get them back?
On. I'm getting there.
And what was
Ernest,
what was his second name again? Florino.
Her cousin?
Yeah.
Farina.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like it.
So back to Ernest Brown. He was let go after satisfying the police with an alibi. He said he was on holiday in London from Glasgow. And that was published in an article that was released in the Aberdeen Daily Journal back in January.
But that's not too far away from where she was killed, right?
London. So yeah, if he's visited in London, it's in London. So
great alibi.
But the police at the time were satisfied with what he said.
Amazing alibi.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, it was considered, could her killing have been a revenge killing? No, cover spy. So great way to disguise it on a train, just a standard robbery, cover it up as a revenge killing.
And also that's like a spy killing.
Yes,
train.
Right. But it gets better. And this is why they think it might have been a revenge killing. Days before Florence's murder, the White Russian General Kolchak, a White Russian leader that Britain and America had been supporting against Lenin's government of the Bolsheviks revolutionaries, was handed over to the Bolsheviks and brutally killed. Okay. Right?
Yep.
Florence, the reason it could have been a revenge attack, and they believed it was a revenge attack by the White Russian Tsarist loyalists over the betrayal of Kolchak and Imperial Russia. It was suggested that Florence's head wounds were not unlike those seen on the Tsar's family, right?
But the Tsar's family were like shot to death and also stabbed with the bayonet. She's not stabbed with a bayonet.
But also, I then found out later on that literally the day before she was with Mabel, she'd visited her auntie. So Raphael Farina's mother.
Farina's?
Yeah.
I like it.
She'd visited her the day before her murder. But it was an unexpected visit. But also there was a bit of questions over it because it was a case of she could have gone straight from there to visit her other friends. Why did she sort of went back on herself. She went up to see the auntie, then back down, and then back up again. So why didn't she stay? So there's suggestions that maybe she discovered something, or her auntie had disclosed something to her linked with this whole, obviously her brother and then her cousin in MI5, and that maybe she knew a bit more information, and that there was sort of a bit of a crossover, and that Florence was sort of a revenge killer, for family, like they just target a random family member.
But also, she would make an awesome spy herself.
I feel like she would, wouldn't she?
Think about it. She's a nurse.
This is it. There's absolutely no... Obviously, she's got a links to her military herself, so there's absolutely no reason why she couldn't have been a spy. Like I said, I feel like Ernest is one of those people that could possibly big himself up, because as much as there's links with him with the military, there's no actual evidence of him in this crime. So a lot of it, the kind of reason he wasn't convicted was... the evidence was very loose, so I feel like he was bragging about these things. And there's a news article with this thing that I'll link in the website later of him. He sort of goes to the the newspapers, like this is quite a few years later on, going, I managed to escape, I nearly got convicted of like multiple murders, but I got away.
Why would you admit to it if you got away with it?
Which I feel like he's a bit of a bragger, and that's... It ties in. It doesn't completely throw out the whole MI5 thing. I think it is, and maybe he just stumbled along it and managed to get himself involved in it.
Yeah, that's like those people, those killers who could confess to other killings. Yeah. And it's like, you didn't do this. What's the point of that?
That's exactly what I'm thinking about. Yeah. So that's also another possibility. We obviously like the idea of Florence possibly being a bit of a spy. And it does link in with, why did she randomly go to see... It could have been, it just so happened to see that auntie the day before. But I find... links with that and the things that were going on at the time, I just thought it was a little bit of a coincidence. Someone's written literally a whole case just on this together, because there's a lot more characters in it, people in it than what I've described, and it's far more detailed than how I've just described it. So if anyone wants to go and look at it, it's definitely worth a look, because I could literally do a whole podcast on that alone. Yeah,
like you said, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, so it was definitely an interesting one, because I got stuck down a bit of a rabbit hole with that one, because I was like, oh my god, there's so much to this case, and I was trying to condense it down so that it was listenable in a way. So obviously, going back to the original, you've obviously got the theories of who you think it is. I'm throwing Mabel in there purely because she did board the train. She was the only one that provided information about that man getting in the carriage with her at that time.
And I think it's suspicious that she's like, oh no, this is what the guy looks like. I saw him for a second.
Yeah. She also was the only one that provided information on what it was she was carrying. None of this stuff was ever found. So it's all based on robbery, based on what Mabel said Florence had on her.
But also, how old is Mabel? Because is she going to have the strength?
I'm guessing about the same age.
Is she going to have the strength to beat her friend of 26 years to death with the butt of a gun?
I don't know.
As a female, I would not have the strength. I would shoot you.
I don't know.
Because I don't have the strength to whack you. Okay?
I mean, yeah, when you put this together, fair enough. But yeah, and her description kind of didn't match Henry's description. So if I go back...
Is that Henry Duck?
Yes, Henry Duck. So this is where their descriptions differ from each other. Right, so going back to Henry's description of the man that jumped off. So Mabel said it was a man in a brown suit. Henry's initial description, this is where the descriptions slightly differ depending on what reports I looked in. So the book came with the overcoat and a white muffler.
Yeah.
However, from different ones, another description given was a Macintosh coat and a cap. Now, that doesn't mention the white muffler, but a Macintosh coat and an overcoat are kind of similar. There's just difference in lengths.
Yeah.
Like one sort of, I think, comes to your knee, and the other one's much further down your legs, and one's much heavier than the other.
Yeah, I wouldn't know the difference, but yes.
So this is where I feel like that one could have just got lost in time. The only discrepancy is obviously one mentions a cap, one mentions the white muffler. So, bit of a difference. However, the description that Mary gave was of a man in a brown suit.
Who's Mary?
Not Mary. Why did I say Mary? Mabel.
Mabel. Oh, Mabel.
Sorry. Mabel. Hers was that of a man in a brown suit, no overcoat. So if this man jumping off was in an overcoat or Macintosh coat, he would have had to have been carrying it as he got on the train.
They're both saying that they saw the same guy get off the train.
So the police believe that Mabel saw the killer get on, just in a brown suit, no overcoat, and that then the man that jumped off, who was seen by Henry Duck, was the killer fleeing the scene. However, that man was in an overcoat. So basically...
Maybe he was holding the overcoat when Mabel saw him.
She said he had nothing with him.
But he might have like had his arm in the door and she might not have seen the coat.
Absolutely. But this is where I also feel like there's another possibility that I'm kind of thrown in. I feel like Henry's description also kind of helps Mabel out, because Mabel's the only one that gave obviously the description of who was in there, so who got in the carriage with her, how much stuff she had on her. There's no other evidence of that. I wonder if there could have been two men, because even though there's a carriage, it's in the same carriage, there is separate compartments within it. What if both of those men get on, or one of them wasn't real? So she sees someone, just a man get on, generic description, happens to get on the same carriage, not in the same compartment, right? Mabel makes up a man. Mabel's going to kill a friend. She makes up this man got on in the same compartment as her friend, right? We get to that stop. A man jumps off, who is the one that Henry Duck sees, but isn't actually the same man. But because he's jumped off at a weird bit and it's later seen as suspicious, it's kind of mixed in. There's also the possibility that there could be two separate crimes. Now, hear me out this one. Maybe Mabel possibly killed a friend, again, making up the description of the old man. There's a pickpocketer also on that same carriage.
Yeah.
Throughout that first bit of the journey, he maybe, like the plate layers, thinks she's sleeping, sees her as an easy target, steals whatever belongings she does have, as Mabel's discovered, not realising she's dead. The reason he jumps off the train is he's making a quick escape because he's just committed a robbery.
True.
So she was actually already dead.
I get why you think Mabel did it, but why would she do it?
I don't know.
She needs a motive.
She does. There was, again, I don't believe this bit of it. People sort of threw out there that maybe Mabel was a lesbian and she loved Florence and it wasn't reciprocated.
Yeah, I'm not gonna murder someone who I love.
I don't know. It depends how deranged you are. They've been friends for a long time. Like this, they've worked obviously in different nursing parts, but there was obviously a massive crossover in a lot of the work that they did. But I just find it weird that.
But again, surely you love this person. You want them to be alive. You want them to be in your life with them being alive. Not, I'm going to murder you because you don't love me.
But how do you know they've not had like some really bitter argument the day before? Like, and she's, you know, I don't want to say, sometimes girls can be a bit of a thing of like they're not actually a friend. They just be friendly with you to try and get shit on you. Yeah. I feel like that could have been Mabel. But I feel like it would have been the perfect way to cover it up, and it just so happened. If, let's say that scenario with a second crime, perfect cover-up. Someone's now robbed her. Yeah. Well, obviously the thing was robbery.
It is perfect cover-up, but I don't think she would have the strength to murder her with the butt of a gun. If you've got a gun, you shoot them with it.
Yeah, true.
But then obviously you need to flee because it's going to make a noise.
Yeah. So,
but also, beating someone to death is like, you know the person. You're friendly with the person. Because it's overkill. A stranger's not going to whack you so many times.
I suppose it depends how... I don't know, maybe... I suppose if there's an element as well, if Florence was relaxed, so she's maybe not expecting it. Maybe she doesn't need to go in quite as aggressive. Because she's already at ease. I mean, I know she's got a very small window of opportunity. But I just find it a bit hard how, given all the press about it, no one was seen leaving the train station. Do you know what I mean? There was... No one could find this man. And that's why I kind of feel...
He's made up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like... It's hard because there's so many other different conspiracies feeling, but I feel like somewhere along the line, someone would have found the description of this man.
Yeah.
And I don't like the fact that Henry's didn't match
But didn't you go on about Percy being a very good... what did you say?
Oh, Master of Disguise.
Yeah, Master of Disguise.
Yeah, but it was... What was his again?
He could have, like, he could have been a usual suspect and like walked out of there like Kaiser Soze.
Oh my god, where did I put his thingy? Percy's. Why did I say it couldn't be Percy? There was something about Percy that threw me out and I was like, no, it's definitely not him.
Because he robbed houses rather than...
No, that was the other guy.
Oh I don't know.
That was Clements or whatever his name was. Oh yeah, no, Percy was the guy who I said I felt like had like PTSD, just like going around shooting guns.
But he could have had PTSD and still beat her to death.
He could have, but he hadn't done anything like that before. And if that's the case, why did he rob her as well? Like, I feel like that wasn't in his hand. Like.
But then that might.
Because again, if say that wasn't the case, then Mabel still lied, and why would she make up shit like that? If she's going to make something like that up, it immediately makes her seem a bit suspicious.
True.
I don't necessarily think it is Mabel. I just think she's.
Her accounts are a bit
I'm
off.
suspicious of her.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. There's something about it. But I do really like that sort of MI5 element.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I feel like it would be the perfect cover-up. Because just to randomly kill someone on a train, no one's expecting a spy. But I also feel like it's a perfect spy killing. Because it's so
it's a spy
well
killing.
disguised.
Yes, exactly. It's a spy killing. It's like, okay.
Because all it takes is, imagine, okay, say for some bizarre reason, maybe Mabel made up, there's also an element of maybe Mabel made it up into a Robbie to try and make it seem a bit more high profile, like this is why she was killed. And that was just convenient for the whole spy killing thing, because she's given a separate motive.
That makes sense. They're like, oh, Mabel's a spy too.
I don't know.
Is that a spy ring? Yeah, maybe. Maybe Mabel is actually her friend. I feel like
Mabel just in a name isn't a very good spy. But maybe that's how she's called a double bluff.
It doesn't have to be her real name. James Bond is James Bond his real name?
I don't know.
I don't get that. No. I don't know.
But yeah, I really liked this one because from the beginning, like I said, it was not until like way past halfway through that I discovered that Florence Nightingale Shaw is not Florence Nightingale as in Lady with a Lamp. And I was genuinely confused by this because I was like...
I'm glad you chose this case with my case. Because mine's just like, yours is full-on research. Mine's just like one page of Wikipedia.
But the thing is with this, there was so much information on it. And it was like, I couldn't condense it down. Like, you know what I'm like anyway. Anyone that knows me, I waffle for fucking England. But it was a case of like, I feel like there's so many different avenues to go down this. And I think it's another one, to me, it's still, obviously it is unsolved. But I generally don't know who did it. I'm very suspicious of Mabel. I don't know necessarily as though she killed her, but I'm suspicious. I feel like her account...
I think she might be a spy. I think we just uncovered something.
What, and then maybe go back to the other case of that guy the one that bragged later on, and all the links with the brother and the cousin and MI5. Because again, like I said, why did she go see her auntie the day before? Like, it literally could be a coincidence, and we're just making a mountain out of a molehill. But
it's suspicious. If you die in suspicious circumstances, everything you do that day or the week before is going to seem suspicious.
Yeah. So I really like it. I thought it was a really good one.
It's an amazing good case. I love it.
Because it's like there's no evidence, but there was also so many suspects. Like, I feel like the suspects were quite varied as well. So they did, to be fair to the police, they picked up quite a few suspects, but I feel like the cases were quite weak, which is ultimately why they were sort of thrown out.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, those guys, the guy with, we feel, the first one, Percy, he could have been like PTSD.
Yeah.
Then the next guy, I feel like he was just a generic house burglar, just because he just so happened to have a revolver, which I feel at that time is quite a common thing.
But it's suspicious that it's got blood on it.
It is, but there was no proof that it was ever hers, and he'd already been linked to a series of other crimes in the area, like robberies in the area, in which he had hit someone with the butt of a revolver. So there's nothing to say it couldn't have been that person's blood.
True.
I just feel like it was that, and then on a train, it was a bit of a different. It's too much of a different MO from the others. It's not impossible at all.
No, of course.
But there just wasn't enough evidence to substantiate it. And like, for him, would that have been just a crime like of luck? It would have had to be. I don't think he could have planned it. Whereas Florence's one seemed not necessarily planned, but you've got to know enough.
Yeah.
You've got to plan it enough to know that you've only got a short period of time before that first stop. You've got to get off at the right bit. You've got to mingle back into the train station without being seen. So there's got to be an element of premeditation.
Yeah, of course.
And someone like a petty burglar, I feel they're more like an opportunist.
True.
Than premeditate. Like, obviously I know there's an element of them planning, like, today we're going to go out and rob someone, but I feel like that guy in particular, it was more like, now's my opportunity to do it. I don't think there's much thought in it.
Yeah, I like her being a spy. That's
I do
the
like
thing.
that.
That's
I do.
the thing. That's the route I'm going. Because she's in Africa. They need spies in Africa. They need spies all over the place.
Yeah. And then as well, in a weird way, because obviously, like, I got confused with who she actually was. I feel like it'd be quite easy for her to be confused with other people.
Especially, there's probably no photographs back then.
Very few.
Very few. So she can be like, yeah, I'm Florence Nightingale.
And it's also a good way to get around places because like she's a nurse, you've got to let her in, like she's going to help you. Friendly little lady.
She's going to hear the war stories or the things they're planning, and she could be like, I'm going to take that back to my superiors, and then there you go.
Well, I never even considered that. See? That's actually a good idea. But yeah, no, I don't know what everyone sort of thinks.
I think she's
on
a spy.
This. But
we should do something where, I don't know, under the Instagram post, maybe people give us their theories.
Oh, I like that idea.
That's good. Yeah, give us your theories.
And that's it. And then maybe like sort of depending on how much we get back from this, we might have to do maybe a revisited episode, because I feel especially with the whole MI5 thing and like
and if we die mysteriously, MI5 did it. No, don't kill us, please. Actually, you know what? I'm ready for death. Kill me.
Are you? Can we make a few more podcasts first, please?
Okay, yeah, we'll make a few more podcasts. And then they kill us.
Yeah, okay, that's
okay.
Fine.
Yeah.
We'll uncover a few more truths first.
Oh, so there's reason to kill us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we're not giving them enough of a reason yet. No.
This was like how many years ago? They're probably like,
yeah.
You solved it.
Or maybe like we're on the radar now. That's it. They've picked us up.
Okay.
They're like, shit, they've actually discovered it.
Hey, you never know. If it's not in that... Well, it's kind of in that man's notes or that book. What is that book?
Where I got the original case from?
Yeah.
He didn't actually reference the MI5. It was when I was cross-checking my facts before I wrote everything up. Because I didn't want to just take it from one source because this is obviously this person's interpretation of it. So obviously I was cross-checking. That's how I discovered the slight discrepancies in the descriptions given by Henry Duck. And it was in then when someone else threw out a completely different theory, and he sent me a link to another man's page where he was discussing things about that were going on in Russia at that time, and also to do with MI5 and the espionage, to do with the Labour government that I mentioned at the time. And within that, he made reference to this man, Ernest. And obviously, because he was researching, the other guy was researching Florence's murder, he'd obviously cropped up in that. So he went to see if there was a bit of a crossover.
Okay.
And that's when he found out that years later, this guy boasted about how he'd been connected with these things and things been done. So that's sort of how that idea came about. And that's how I got sort of lost in that rabbit hole of that. But I thought, once I'd read it, I was like, I can't not include this now.
No, of course not. Otherwise, it's quite a big chunk of the story.
Yeah, I feel like it's quite... Especially between us now we've kind of maybe settled on the idea of her being a spy. I feel like it would have been a massive one to have missed out. So I think it's a good one.
That was a great case.
Thank you.
It's way better than mine.
No, it's fine. We'll
just skip to however far into the episode.
This now might have peaked.
I don't think so. That was amazing.
Okay. So thank you for listening. That's it for today.
In the meantime, keep creeping.
And we'll keep digging.
We did it.